Hello and welcome to today's Ask the Gardener here on the Irish Gardener on Facebook. In a while, I'll be joined by, how do I describe him? Colman Power. He's just had his first book, The Power of Organic Fitness, out, published, and he'll be joining me very soon. I suppose the only way to describe him really is like a veritable force of nature, positive energy. He'll be joining me in a while, so if you have any questions on organic living, growing your organic food, get them in, and Colman will be joining me in a while. Lots and lots of questions in, which I suppose isn't surprising. It's June, it's summertime, it's that time of year in the garden where everything's happening. So without, as the fella says, further ado, I'm going to go straight to some of the questions. The first one in during the week, if I find it here we are. It's from Jacqui Kennedy. Stokes, hi Peter, I'm looking for a climbing flower for the front of my house. It's east facing, so get sun in the morning, but a lot of shade in the afternoon. You're not alone, Jacqui. I get this question quite a lot. Something that flowers for a long time. What would you recommend that would also give a beautiful smell? Thanks. It's great to have you back doing the lives. It saved me in my garden during the lockdown. Well, Jacqui, I'm glad to have been even a small bit of help for you and your garden during the lockdown. As I say, that's a question I'm asked quite a lot. A climbing plant for a wall that gets a lot of shade, or that's in shade for a lot of the day. So you have several to go from. Ivy, the evergreens, that's self-clinging. Like whenever you're looking at climbing plants, you need to look at several things. So are they self-clinging, or will they need support like trellis or wire? You also need to look at the aspect. Obviously, yours is east-facing because ones that like shade won't do well in sun, and vice versa. Ones that like sunny positions won't do well in shade, right? Then you're looking at things like, are they evergreen or are they deciduous? Will they lose their leaves? And maybe it'll end up being a mixture of a couple of plants, Jacqui, depending on what you want to achieve. But a few good ones. So ivy, like I mentioned, and when I say ivy, you know, your choices are more than just the traditional green climbing ivy. You've lots of other ivies that you could go for, variegated forms of it and different ones. The ivy does flower, of course, but it's really only scented for the bees. It's not scented from our point of view. So you could cut out flowers from that. But a good one for flowering is the hydrangea, the climbing hydrangea petiolaris. Now it's self-clinging. It will drop its leaves and it will flower. However, it's not scented. So one that ticks all your boxes, I guess, if you like, is the honeysuckle, Lonicera, the common native honeysuckle, Lonicera periclemum. Not self-clinging, but it will flower for a long period of time, grows everywhere, very, very vigorous. Be careful of that. But gorgeous, gorgeous flowers on the honeysuckle, scented flowers as well. So moving on then. Marzena, if I'm pronouncing your name right. Marzena, aphids at home and on the balcony help. Sprinkled with garlic water does not help. Well, Marzena, what I would say to you is several things. If they're on your plants, first of all, if they're on indoor plants, you could get a little pesticide containing pyrethrin, which is the extract from the chrysanthemum plant, an organic insecticide, and just wipe the leaves with it. Okay, that will work. And if it's indoor, you're being careful because you're not going to be affecting bees and that. It is organic, but it's still, you know, it's not 100% not toxic, if you know what I mean. Another thing is just if it's only on a few of your plants, just or a few of the leaves, just cut them off and throw them out. Also, if they're indoor plants, and now that we are technically in the summer, you could move them outdoors during the day and just let the air at them and let them blow around. I'm a huge believer in just improving air circulation. Maybe cut down on the watering a small bit so they don't have damp soil around them to attract them in. There are other things that you can get. You've tried the garlic drops. That would be the one that my go-to one, if you like. Get yourself a few marigolds. You can get a few marigolds that'll deter aphids as well. Even just have them in pots around the house or around the balcony and see if that works. And as I say, I'm hoping to have Colman Power joining me in a while, who's expert in all things organic living. Hopefully he'll be joining me in a minute. So do get your questions in for him. Also, I should say, welcome to those watching on LinkedIn. For the first week, we're going live on LinkedIn now as well as Facebook. So if you're taking a break from work or from the office, you're on a lunch break, get your questions in. And I'll do my very best to answer them when I see them. Now, Rosaleen Crowe is asking me, should I be spraying for blight today? Thank you. Well, Rosaleen, I would normally hope that it's too early for blight at this time of the year. However, it's very, very damp. Now, it's very windy where I am, which, you know, isn't conducive to blight. But it's always a hard one. Always I'm asked this question, obviously, around this time of year. It's a hard one to answer. I use copper sulfate, and I'd recommend the use of copper sulfate to control blight. It's sold as bluestone and used as bluestone around the country. It's a traditional form of prevention, blight prevention, and it's very effective. But I wouldn't use it. I mean, I know a lot of textbooks and that will recommend using it every week and every fortnight. I wouldn't do anything like it. I'd use it maximum twice during the growing season. It is certified for use in organic gardening. However, it's still copper sulfate. It's still copper, so you don't want to be putting too much of it into the soil. Would I use it now? I'd probably wait a week or two. If you see any sign of it, any shriveling of any leaf, get it on straight away. But otherwise, and just keep an eye on to the blight warnings. But I would have thought it was a bit early for that, Rosaleen. Now, a few other questions. Rita, any idea what these plants are? I can't see those plants, Rita. Sorry about that, but I will have a look for next week. Emma Hughes, do I need to deadhead flowers on azaleas, and when is the best time to prune her? I'm laughing at the way you refer to it as her. It's like your azalea has nearly become a friend of the family or a family member. No, you don't need to deadhead azaleas. You don't actually need to deadhead them. You can do if you want for tidiness and that, but I would cut them back, and I would cut them back now. I'm presuming that they're the evergreen azaleas, which are the Japanese ones that we all know and refer to as azaleas, which were just alive with flowers up to very recently. You can't see the leaves for the flowers on those evergreen fellas. Really gorgeous plants for spring and early summer, like an acid soil, something shaded. So do cut it back, because your window of opportunity is quite limited. It's from after flowering to maybe July time, because it sets the azaleas, like the camellias and other rhododendrons, will set their flowers for blooming next spring, but they'll set them this July and August. Okay, so prune it back now, so that you're not pruning off next year's flowers by doing it too late. Okay, when you're cutting it back, if it's one of the evergreen forms, make sure that you're leaving foliage underneath the cut, so that you're not removing all the leaves, because I have a few at home that have got quite leggy and all the greenery's on the outside. So I need to cut them back quite gradually. I constantly need to leave green below where I've cut, okay? So do that now, Emma. Myla. Hi, I moved to the new house, and bamboo is everywhere. How do I get rid of it? I heard it's difficult. Help in capital letters. And Myla, I'm afraid help should be in capital letters. That's not an easy one. Bamboo can be very, very invasive. There's dozens, if not hundreds, of species of bamboo. But we kind of break it down in this part of the world to clump forming and non-clump forming, if you like. And the non-clump forming ones are very invasive. Well, some are very invasive, some not so much, but they're all invasive to a degree. The Philostachys are the ones that will just travel for miles. They'll interfere with plumbing, they'll interfere with paving, they'll come up through the lawn, they'll come up through nearly concrete. If you want to plant a bamboo, in the first instance, I'd normally keep it in a raised bed or a contained area, maybe a big pot. And also go for Fargesia, or maybe something like Thamnocalmus or something like that. One of the clump-forming bamboos, which are really lovely. But anyway, that's not going to help you. In your situation where you've moved into a new garden and you have this problem, the bad news here is I don't have a magic wand, I'm afraid. It's a question of getting in, cancel any gym membership you have, and get the spade, get the shovel, get the pickaxe maybe, and get in there and dig it out. And I hate to tell you, the roots will go down, 20 inches and sometimes even more, but you need to just get it out. You will leave, it's nearly inevitable, you will leave some root behind you that will regenerate, but at that stage, it's, you're fighting a winning battle because you're taking out weaker and weaker plants. But this could go on for a while, but you do need to stay on top of it, because otherwise it will just take over. So sorry that I don't have a better answer for you, Myla, but that's it. Margaret Fitzgerald. Here we are. Hi, Peter. What flower seeds can I sow outdoors in July for pollinators? Well, I'm delighted, Margaret, in the first instance that you are looking to plant for pollinators. There's loads that you can plant even June and July, actually, for pollinators. Any of the wildflower mixes you could still sow, but the thing to remember is that they're not going to be for flowering this year. If you sow them in July, you're really sowing for next year. So a lot of the spring bloomers, like your beautiful blue forget-me-nots, things like that, maybe some of the wild violets. Also your biennials and things like foxgloves and all these guys, you could direct sow them. In other words, sow them outdoors now in July, wherever you want them to grow. They'll germinate relatively quickly. And depending which one, whether it's your spring flowering or summer flowering, you'll have blooms from them next year. So As I said, though, the wildflower, the reason I'm hesitating here is that your wildflower mix is something that you get like this guy. Any of your wildflower mixes, Margaret, that you will get, they will probably germinate away around this time of the year. The reason I'm hesitant is because the correct advice on a wildflower mix is to sow them either in March, April, or September, October. But that's because we normally have drought in the summer. We're not having that at the moment. Who knows? Hopefully in July we'll have a long, protracted warm, a hot spell. But at the moment we're not. So I think you could risk even just some wildflower mixes too, Margaret, and hope for the best. Okay. Marie Clohessy. I'm looking for advice on how to get rid of horsetail, which, in spite of repeated digging, burning with a flamethrower, plus a little bit of Roundup here and there, is colonizing my flower beds and even appearing on the lawn. Well, that's not an easy one to deal with either, Marie. We kind of have to learn to live with mare's tail or horsetail, depending on what you want to call it, because it's been with us since before the dinosaurs, would you believe, or the time of the dinosaurs. That's 125 million years away, if not further back. So we're not going to kill it with any bit of a flamethrower or modern day glyphosate chemical, which I'm not in favor of using in the first place. So we kind of have to learn to live with it. And what I mean by that is we know that it doesn't really become a problem on lawns, because I know you say it's beginning to colonize your lawn, but it's not really a problem on lawns because we're constantly cutting it back and we're constantly mowing it, right? So we're staying on top of it in that instance, okay? So that kind of tells us a bit. So if we're constantly cutting it back and trying to pull it out, then we will stay on top of it. However, it tends to colonize areas that aren't being maintained. I had an unfortunate client recently up the country who we were just about to go planting, and if she's watching, don't worry, I won't say who you are. Just before we went planting, we saw that in the soil there was fresh topsoil. There was some of this mare's tail or horsetail in it, and it's just a problem because if it gets into the garden, it spreads very, very quickly. It becomes a huge problem. The root system go quite deep. As I say, it's been here since the time of the dinosaurs, so we're not going to be able to eradicate it, and we need to recalibrate our thinking and not try to eradicate it, try and live with it. So as I say, in lawns where you're mowing it and at it, it's not going to become a problem. It tends to be a problem on untended ground, so in gravel areas or in a bed the soil has never turned or weeded. That's where it's a problem. So the only answer that I can give to you really, Marie, is to keep pulling it, keep getting rid of it. Is stronger plants that get very bushy and dense, like phormiums, for example, will tend to push it out. The mare's tail doesn't bother trying to outcompete it. It just moves elsewhere. So all I can say to you is put in strong plants that might crowd it out and keep pulling it. It's also, I did an article on it on mare's tail for the Irish Examiner a couple of years ago, and by God, it got some traction because so many people are interested in how to eradicate it, but also because it's that old a plant, a lot of people are interested to study it. And it's very rich in silica, which I'm told, not that I have any knowledge, is very good for your hair. It's a very good hair tonic. So it's very good for lots of things. A quick Google on the benefits of mare's tail, which is Equisetum arvens, to give it its posh name, if you like. A quick Google will bring up lots of things of what you could use it for. So we might be looking at it in a whole different way, Marie. But look, hopefully that helps a bit. Mary Mulcahy is asking me, what shrubs flower from May until autumn, please, from Mary? It's a pretty vague one, Mary. There are several, which I'll name in a minute, but before we go into that, you need to kind of look at where you want them to grow. Is it sunny? Is it shaded? Is it limey? Is it acidic? Is it very wet soil, dry soil, windy, not windy? All these things are what you need to bear in mind first before you even think about what to go for. But plants that will flower, shrubs that will flower over that time of the year. Hebes, of course. I adore Hebes because they're a foolproof plant. They're evergreen, great foliage, great flowers, not just May to September, but even earlier to later. Loved by bees, so bringing the bees, butterflies, all the good guys into the garden. Hypericum is another one. Be careful which Hypericum you get. Do not go for the Hypericum calasinum or any of those ones because they're very vigorous and they become a problem. Instead, look at one of the cultivated forms like Hidcote or one of them. But that good long flowering period too. Potentilla is an old-fashioned garden favorite, and I still love it. Flowers, they're in flower at the moment, and they're just full of color. They mightn't go all the way to September, but you'll certainly get May to July out of them. Hydrangeas, again, they mightn't start as early as May, but they'll certainly go on later than September. So they're coming. I'm smiling because I see Colman has just joined us. We're nearly just joined us. So I'll be talking to Colman in a minute about organic living and organic fitness. So just if you have a question from, get it in. Hydrangeas, as I say, Hebes, Hypericums, Potentillas. There are more, and there's loads in the lines of perennials as well, which are great for giving colour. One last question there before I get to Colman, and it's from Geraldine. Hi, Peter. I didn't get my irises to grow in my water fountain. They're in it nearly 3 years and haven't flowered yet. Please help. I can't get my irises to grow. Well, Geraldine, two things I'm going to say to you. First of all, have you got the right iris? Because not all of them will actually grow in water. So some, like the Siberian Iris siberica, and that will actually want to be in very sunny, drier, well-drained soil. So perhaps that's the problem. We haven't got the right iris in the first place. Iris fetidissima, the flag iris, will certainly like those conditions, but it should be relatively easy to flower. If you have got the right iris, it's not flowering yet. I'd be very slow to put in any kind of liquid plant feed into a water situation like that. So I would say it's just a question of time, Geraldine. So sorry I don't have more help for you on that one, but perhaps it is the wrong variety. Now bear with me, because as I say, I don't have my tech partner with me. So hopefully Colman and I will be able to speak now, and we'll be having a chat. Colman, how are you? Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear. I'm going to tell you more of a lie. I literally have ran a mile to get to where I am right now.
You poor fella. You poor fella. Well, look, thanks for coming on today. Thanks for joining us. For those that are watching, tell me a bit about your new book. Congratulations. You've had your first book published.
I certainly have. A major, I suppose, achievement in itself. The whole book is called The Power of Organic Fitness. And I'm pretty sure I've got it right here in my hands. It's literally, I suppose, the whole ethos of getting people back to more.
Hold it closer to the camera there. Give yourself a good plug.
So the point of which is it's getting people back to single ingredient foods, getting outside a hell of a lot more, doing exercise. And the whole idea of that is to most certainly exercise minimum requirement is 10,000 steps. And if you're looking to grow a little bit of your own, I want people to eat single ingredient foods and are chemical free. And you can do that by literally growing a small bit in a polytunnel, in a glass house. Because anybody, I suppose, used to do this, used to have apple trees at home, used to have potatoes, onions, garlic, which are all actually super beneficial. Potatoes don't make you fat. The whole idea of it is we've come away from what single ingredient food actually is. Potatoes are a carbohydrate. They're the body's first source of energy. And especially if you're growing them yourself, the enjoyment and the free exercise that you get from growing something from scratch, from seed, potato seed, to, I suppose, harvesting a crop. And in this book, I suppose, starts in getting people to understand foods. Then at the point of which you're going on to different organic fitness foods. You can either grow your own or buy it, but definitely add it to your diet. There's different, I suppose, nutritional tips. And one of those that a lot of people might be interested in here is coffee. A lot of people demonize it. I don't demonize it. What I do is switch over to alternatives. Parsley has an antioxidant called lutein and zeaxanthin. It just has an antioxidant. So you put it in a cup, add in some warm water, drink it off. It increases blood flow to the back of the eye. And that's one of those simple things you can add into your diet. And parsley is so easy to grow. You really have it in a pot, have it in a little meter square bed, or if you have it a polytunnel or a glass house, you can grow it in there too. And there are so many other different foods, such as tomatoes that are natural mood improvers. They contain fiber. Fiber is good for your gut health. And the advantage of, I suppose, growing a little bit of your own, actually, it's like printing money. And someone actually said to me very recently, we're going to be using that from now on. So that's kind of my whole ethos of the book in itself. The Power of Organic Fitness is available on Amazon, and I suppose I live and breathe and practice everything that's written in that book.
Good man. I'm delighted. I'm looking forward to reading it. And tell me, Colman, not that I can't see myself drinking parsley tea anytime soon, but I might give it a go. Tell me, what's your story? Have you been into gardening and organic growing all your life, or is this something relatively new?
Well, it's a good question. I suppose I grew up in a country background, and my father would have had an interest of small, I suppose, holding of an acre out the back with apple trees, and had some soft fruits, gooseberry bushes, which again I highly recommend people to start growing again to consume these types of red currants and black currants, making your own jam from scratch. All these things again we've certainly lost touch with. But then I went, I suppose, and studied horticulture in college, and then I got my master's degree in organic horticulture, got that down in UCC, and that was the only course being run in Europe doing a master's in organic horticulture. So I was very lucky to actually get and achieve that master's degree. Then I went off to Australia, and I came back, and actually one of the first jobs actually I got as qualified as a master's in organic horticulture was in a hydroponics grow system. And it was probably the toughest job you could have put someone into. Literally 8-hour days in about 40 degrees in glass houses, picking tomato, throwing them into a tub and picking them as fast as you possibly could. We were paid at the time with piece rate. But yeah, I suppose I gained a lot of knowledge then when I did the master's, and I studied after that because I was interested in it. Went in and studied nutrition, went in and I suppose then studied personal training. Then I amalgamated together to come together with the organic fitness program, which gets people to exercise over a 6-week period, gets people to either grow their own or buy it. And then inevitably I tell people what, I suppose, antioxidant foods that you could grow, such as the likes of oregano, which is a super high antioxidant herb. Antioxidants just reduce stress. Less stress in the body, more energy. In a nutshell, that's pretty much the whole idea of grow your own herbs and spices, which I get people to add in.
I could do with some of that, less stress. Yeah, less stress and more herbs. I have to disagree with you that potatoes don't make you fat, however, because there is no way that I don't like potatoes. I like them in every form: potato salad, up to chips, roast, baked, boiled, mashed, whatever way you give them to me, I love them. I eat them. But maybe it's the butter that I'm adding to this.
There you go, and I'm glad Peter has said that. It's typically not the potatoes; it's something that you're adding to them, or the cream. There we go.
There's a question coming in there, Colman, that I'm going to throw at you because I've already done a bit there earlier talking about potato blight. So Edel has a question wondering, do you know of some sprays for potato blight, right? So let's throw it over to you. Everyone's, I think, is probably bored at this stage listening to me waffle on each week. So have you a cure for potato blight for us?
I suppose prevention with organics is always the most important. So straight away, I'm going to recommend you prevention is key. So growing blight-resistant varieties. And what's actually happened with, I suppose, the whole industry of food, we've actually bred out the blight-resistant varieties, but they're still available because what we've ended up doing is picking it for yield, and we've inevitably taken out the resistancy from the pests and diseases. So going back to, I suppose, blight-resistant varieties, South Palmyra is a potato that's very blight-resistant, and Iron Victory is another variety of potato that I highly recommend. South Palmyra, some people don't enjoy the taste, but definitely the Iron Victory, which is a purple skin, which I'm a firm believer in. Again, more people need to eat more coloured foods due to the fact that they're higher antioxidants. Again, the darker the colour, the higher the antioxidants. And as a result of that, the thing to control, I suppose, the blighted leaves, depending on how large a scale of growing that individual is doing, I would definitely pick off some of the leaves that are infected. If it is first signs, that's another thing to do. Progression on top of that, the use of copper sulfate can be used, but it's, I suppose, then again, you go down further down the line of harsh chemicals that I wouldn't have a preference towards. Definitely something organic you could try, and something I use for several different remedies is using the likes of garlic. Okay, garlic, and it has an antioxidant called allicin, and it strengthens the immune system of us when we are the end consumers. But what's good for us is also good for the plants. So crushing up the likes of garlic, leaving it sit in a bucket for 24 hours, and if it's at the early stage, I suppose you could have no problem in also using the likes of nettles, steeping them in a bucket with the garlic for 24 hours, just a standard bucket that you can get and fill up with water. And it will be then you're strengthening the immune system, and you're giving a bit of leafy, strong growth that might get it to, I suppose, come out of the stages of the blight that you currently are in.
Great suggestion. Just keep the plants healthy in the first instance, and try and, a bit like as you say ourselves, try and keep us healthy to prevent us getting sick in the first case. And I must say I do like Sarpomyra. I do grow them, and I used to grow one which I don't see available. It was another Peruvian variety, Sarpoaxona, but I don't see it available anymore, and I used to love it. But anyway, look. We could talk all day. I better leave you go, Colman, but thank you very much. How do people get in touch with you if they want to have a chat with you?
They can most certainly contact me in relation to Facebook, Colman Power, Instagram, Colman Power, TikTok, and YouTube. And I suppose, Peter, if you wanted to give away, I was going to offer I've been doing a Grow Your Own course up in Kildare. If you wanted to pick out one listener at random, or if they answered a question in relation to the likes of an answer that you can give them, or I can give them. As a Grow Your Own course, I have one space available for the likes of the class tomorrow in Kildare. If anyone is available and would like to, I suppose, avail of that spot tomorrow in Kildare, 9:30 start, finish at 4:30. Full day.
Well, if it's tomorrow, Coleman, I think the fairest thing to do is the first person that comes into this thread that says they want it, they can have it. Okay. Thank you very, very much. And thanks for your time and continued success and continued enjoyment, I suppose, on this fantastic journey you're on and the road of organic living, I suppose.
That's it. No, thanks, Peter. I'm going to see you again. I'll have a good chat with you in person at the likes of the Cork Summer Show.
Brilliant. Look forward to it. Thanks, Colman. Cheers.
Thanks, Peter. Talk soon.
Bye. So a fabulous guy, fabulous ethos about Colman, and doing great. So thanks for that. Now, getting straight on to questions. Pamela, how do you get rid of brambles? They're popping up everywhere in the back garden. That's Pamela's question, Pamela Galvin. Well, Pamela, again, it's a bit like the question I had earlier about bamboos. The best and most effective cure for it, or solution to it, is to get out there with a shovel, get out there with a spade. I have no magic wand. I'm certainly not going to recommend that you use any weed killers out there. You go out there with a shovel or a spade, get them out. The great thing about taking out brambles is it's so satisfying. The roots come out relatively easily. They will scratch the hell out of you, but then when you get the roots out, you get 6, 7, 8, 9 feet of weeds out in one go. So it's actually not as difficult a job as you might think. So it really is, though, a question, I'm afraid, Pamela, of getting out there with the shovel. Marie, advice on how to continue. I did that for you, Marie, earlier on horsetail. I did yours, Marzena, about the aphids. Mary Mulcahy, thank you. Peter, you're very welcome. Marie Clohessy, thank you for your advice on horsetail. Yeah, very informative. Naomi, I guess that's for you, Colman. Congratulations. Fiona Lucey, I think, is there. I'm available tomorrow. Probably the first one, Fiona. I called your name out first anyway, Fiona, so I'll pass that on to Colman, Fiona Lucey, and I'm sure he'll make contact with you, or you make contact with him. Deirdre here is asking, if I missed any questions, I am sorry. What bedding plants are good for bees? Now, that's a great question, Deirdre, and thank you for asking it, because I know I sound like a politician. Thank you for asking the question. But the reason I say it's a great question is because so many of them aren't. The ones that we need to be avoiding for bees and other pollinators are the intensively hybridized varieties. So try and ignore F1 hybrids and go for the more simple flowers. If you look for things like Biden's Aurea, lovely yellow, well, it comes in a range of colors now, yellows and oranges. I have some lovely ones in my own hanging baskets, loved by bees. Bacopa Snowflake is another one that's loved by bees. Any of these kind of more simple flowers and not the intensively hybridized. I'm running out of time, Deirdre, and I want to do one more thing. So the best advice I can give you is that, obviously, but also call to your garden centre and ask them which ones are good. Tell them you're not looking for intensively hybridized bedding, and go from there. And what I want to do before I finish this week, because somebody asked me last week about taking cuttings, and it's very difficult to illustrate how to take cuttings when you don't have a cutting to take. So I'm going to do one now, and it was on hydrangeas. So I conveniently have a hydrangea next to me this week. It's a gorgeous one called Annabelle, Hydrangea Annabelle, the lovely white flowering one. One of my and everybody's favorite. So what you want is this year's growth. It's called a nodal, semi-ripe nodal cutting, to give it its college name, if you like. We call it a slip. Okay. So if you can see here from the camera, I want to take the cutting at a node. It's this year's growth, not the woody growth from last year. You see where I have the secateurs there? I don't know if you can see it clearly or not, but it's just at a node. I'll show you now, right? So there's my cutting, or the start of my cutting. Okay, see what I mean about the node? It's just there, that where the leaves meet the stem. That's the magical part of the plant. It's where all the hormones hang out. It's where your auxins are, and that's what we want in this instance, because the auxins will promote the roots. Don't pull the leaves off, because you could wound it, and that's where infection will get in. Cut them off cleanly, okay? This is what's called a terminal bud. Sometimes it's a flower bud like now. Sometimes it's a leaf bud. We don't want the terminal bud. And in fact, I'm going to not just remove the terminal bud, I'm going to come down a bit lower. I'm actually going to come down to this. So again, the top of my cutting is also a node, right? We're talking about clean cuttings, always. Right, so the base of my cutting is a node, top of my cutting is a node. It's about 4 inches, 2 leaves in it, into a small bit of rooting powder, okay? Into a small bit of rooting powder. Shake off the excess. You don't want too much. Indole butyric acid is the name of the hormone inside there that we're using to promote the rooting. The rest of it's more just talcum powder. So make a hole in a pot full of compost. It wants to be damp without being too wet. Stick the cutting in. Firm it up so it's not going to be rocking around. Don't have it too wet. In a few weeks, I'm going to keep it here, and in a few weeks, I'll show you that that'll have developed its own root system. Guys, once again, the half hour is up. Thank you all very much for watching. Thanks for your questions. Thanks to Colman Power for joining us. Good luck, Colman, with your course tomorrow. And Fiona, I hope you get there. I hope you enjoy it. I hope to see lots of hydrangea cuttings this time next week. As always, get your questions into me during the week and I'll answer it. So if you can't watch it live, you can watch it back in your own time. And lots of comments coming in there for Colman in the thread. You'll watch it back in your own time. If you can't watch it live, get the questions into me, get them into me live. As I say, this is the first week we're going out live on LinkedIn as well. So hopefully everyone watching it on LinkedIn has enjoyed it. And until this time next week, 1 o'clock on the Irish Gardener, Ask the Gardener. Thanks everybody for watching.